Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Work continues on my bonsai show trees for the 2019 Club Show. Over the years, I collect items from the thrift stores that I think maybe I can use in a bonsai display someday. And here's some of the items I've collected. I'll start today's video by going down my list of show trees, taking a look at all the trees on the list and seeing what needs work. I've got my list in front of me, and the first tree on the list is my yucca forest. So I got that cleaned up yesterday, so that should be okay for the show. Next on the list is the rosemary forest, and I've done some cleanup work on that already. It's looking quite good right there, so that's fine. Number 3 on the list is the Canadian red pine. So that's my root over island kind of planting. So it's changed quite a bit since I created it last year. There's moss growing in what used to be the water. And I don't know, it looks quite nice the way it is. It looks like a terrain change. There's a tree growing on a rock, and yeah, the top looks quite good too. I didn't do any pruning this year to it, so it's just very natural looking at the moment. Next on the list is my pink pixie Bougainvillea. That's down here, and it looks quite good. The moss looks good, the leaves look good, so that's fine for the show. Next on the list is my Hibiscus. That's over here. And the leaves have come in quite nicely on it. So, yeah, that looks pretty good for this show, I think. Next on the list is my Sarissa forest, which is over here. And yeah, it's not finished that. It needs some more landscape work, so I hope I can get some time and maybe put some sand down on that or something. Next on the list is my Ficus microcarpa, and that's the one from the seed. So that's right down here. So that one, it's all prepared. That looks good. Next is my asparagus fern, and that's over here. These pots need clean up and that, but so that's looking good. The asparagus fern looks fine. Next on the list is the Norfolk Island pine forest. That is down here. I've kind of run out of bench space. Right here. And that's looking good. I don't think I need to do anything to that other than a little cleanup. Next is the Austrian pine. That's up here. And yeah, the top of the tree is looking quite nice. I could dress up the soil, put some moss down there. So I may have to do that. Next on the list, number 11, is the Schefflera. My clump of Schefflera trees. That is over here. And that's being pruned up. And it's looking quite good. It needs a little cleanup on the moss there, but next on the list is my larch forest. That's over here. And I haven't done much to it. I've got to get to that, do my, clean up my landscape and that. Beside my larch forest is the Avatar Grove, the cedar forest or thuya forest. And it needs some trimming on the trees and a little bit of landscape work to get that looking good. Next on the list is my elephant diorama, which is over here. And it's looking good. It's looking very green and overgrown, which is a different look for it this year. And I think it looks quite nice. We'll leave it as is. Next, number 15 is the cedar clump style. And that is over here. And it's looking very full. I'm getting a lot of foliage coming forward on the planting, giving it a lot more depth. It's by no means finished, this planting, but yeah, it's come a long way in the last few years, so I'll put that in the show. Next is my Portulacaria afra forest. It's right over here, growing like crazy, so that needs pruning before the show. Next is number 17 is my Jade forest. So again, my Jade forest is a new planting for this year. It's over here. And the only reason I'm bringing that is just to show you know, you can create quite an attractive forest in very little time. Number 18 is my bird's nest spruce. That's over here, right here. So I've already done all the cleanup work on that. This is the back of it right now. Next is my, wait a minute. Oh, okay. Is my Schefflera, my single Schefflera, not the clump here. But over here is my single Schefflera, and that's growing in the Vietnam style bonsai pot, 3D printed pot. Yeah, that's looking quite nice. Getting a little overgrown. It might need a little bit of pruning before the show. My larch single, that's the one I pruned up on a previous video. That's this one right here. I don't know. I think this tree's going to look really good in another year or two. It looks a little meager to put in the show right now. It's all trunk and no foliage, so I may not put that in the show. Then my aloe bonsai is number 21. That is in the greenhouse, way down here. So here we are in the greenhouse. The aloe bonsai looking good. It's got all kinds of aerial roots. Princess earrings is next, right up there. It's looking good. My mini Bougainvillea forest, that's right beside it here. It's looking good. My Vietnam style Ficus, it's in behind there, right over there. A little cleanup required on that before the show. And my crown of thorns, there it is back there. That's number 23, and there's one more, which is my Ficus microcarpa fancy, which is right here in the greenhouse. Defoliated. That could use a little moss at the base, just to dress it up a bit. And that's my show trees for this year. I may not put all the trees on the list in the show. I've only got 1 day, 1.5 days left to get them all ready for the show, and I've got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to keep going, working on the trees one by one and try and get them show ready. I'm going to start today's work on my jade forest, and I need to cover up my bonsai soil, and I don't want to cover it up with moss. That would look too lush and it wouldn't suit the, you know, the jades because they grow in a desert type environment. So I think I'll put a layer of sand on top of the bonsai soil and see how that looks. Before I begin on the landscape, I'll need to clean the forest up. You can see there's a leaf here that's been sunburned. It was a leaf, an indoor leaf, that got dried out when I brought the planting outside. So I need to pick off these leaves that don't look very good. There's another one here. You can just break them off like that. There's one over here. There's a discolored one here I can remove. And one here. Another one here. You can just twist them off with your hand too. There's a bunch of sunburnt ones back here. Get those cleaned out. So any leaves that are, you know, discolored or yellowed or have something wrong with them, it's best just to pull them off, like that one. And just leave the nice, healthy looking leaves on the trees. Okay, I'll do a final inspection. That's looking good. Okay, I think I've got all the discolored leaves off the tree now. Off the trees. So next I'll want to pick out any debris that's fallen down on top of the bonsai soil, pine needles and leaves and anything that's fallen down. Alright, I think I'm ready to add the sand now, and I'll try that light colored sand that I used on my yucca forest. Alright, here I go. I'll pour what I can, and then I'll have to use the spoon to get into some of the tighter areas. I think I'll have to get the spoon for that area. And again, the spoons are really good for leveling the soil out and putting any sand dunes you want in there. Some around the main tree up front here. Everyone asks me, doesn't this sand clog up the bonsai soil? it sinks down into the bonsai soil and clogs it up so you can't water. And I found it doesn't. It just sits on top. You get a little bit that, you know, penetrates the top layer of the bonsai soil, but the soil remains nice and free draining. I haven't had any problems with sand on top of my bonsai soil. And it's really easy to clean out if you want to change the sand to a, because the sand does become a little green after a while. It gets algae buildup on it. So you can just scrape that layer of sand off and replace it with a fresh layer. I found the sand to be no problems. The only thing I've noticed now with this planting is that the pot is quite a light color, the sand's a light color, the trunks are a light color. So there's not a lot of contrast. I think if the pot were a darker color, maybe the color, the brown color on the trunk here, it would maybe look a little better, but I think the sand looks much better than seeing the bonsai soil for sure. And I think the lighter color sand looks good too. I think if it was like the playground sand, it would be too dark. It would sort of blend in with the trunks more and maybe look less desert-like. I've just about got all the sand done, so I can give it a watering to level it all out. And even if some of that bonsai soil shows through, it was a light color, and I think it'll look quite good, even kind of like rocks in the landscape. So, all right, I'll get the watering can out and give it a good thorough watering. Okay, here I go with the water now. And we'll give it a good soaking to settle all that sand in. You can see some of the bonsai soil showing through now, which is okay. It's the right color to tone with this sand. And it'll kind of give it a more realistic appearance, I think, with a bit of rocks in there. At least that's what I'm hoping. So after this watering, these jades won't need to be watered for, you know, quite a long time. I'll put them back in the full sun, and that'll help. But yeah, they probably won't need watering for, you know, a couple of weeks. And I do keep them out of the rain. I don't let the rain upset my watering schedule of, you know, watering thoroughly and letting them dry out. So if it's raining, I put them under cover, usually in the greenhouse. The jade forest is back in the sun, drying out once again. So that's what it looks like. I think it's looking quite good for, you know, being less than a year old. From, you know, I think Connor gave me this tree, which is a really nice, fat, squat tree. And the rest of the trees in the planting, these were ones I was growing for many years. And I think the back one is a cutting that I got from Joey, I think. So there's a bit of a mixture of trees. They're all the same kinds. They're the, you know, they call them the Gullum jade, or, yeah, because the shape of the leaves. Yeah, so a bit of a mix match of origins for the trees, but looking like a nice planting. Next on my list is a Canadian red pine. I originally thought this was a Scots pine, but then I noticed the bark was different and it grew differently, and I realized, oh, this is a red pine. So the landscape, I think, is looking quite natural, and it is natural because I haven't done much to the landscaping this year at all. So moss is growing in, and, you know, my pebbles that were the water, and I had some sand in there, it's all kind of done its own thing, and I think it looks quite natural, and I don't really want to change anything before the show. I'll just have to pick out some of the debris that's fallen down. The top of the tree, it's quite young to be in a show. I haven't really developed it. It's going to be sort of a flat top pine with a bit of a windswept look to it. And this year I just grew it. This was like the first full season of growing on top of this rock. And it was always a little wobbly, so I thought I better grow the tree out to strengthen up the roots and get it to grip that rock nice and firmly. And it's done that. It's really gripping the rock well now. And the tree is really healthy. So the next year, next spring, I'll start the process of, you know, thinning the canopy out, getting rid of branches that aren't growing a good direction, bit of thinning, candle pinching, and that kind of thing. So to get that canopy underway as a bonsai. The next tree on my list is my Pixie Bougainvillea bonsai, and it's looking good. The leaves are looking good. I did leaf prune it earlier this summer. The moss is looking quite nice. It's a little tall, but it looks very natural, and I don't really want to touch it. I could clean the moss away from the roots and trim the moss back, but I don't know. I'm wondering, should I? Let me just try pruning a little bit of the moss and see if it stays nice and green if I prune it down a bit. It looks like I can prune a little bit off and still have it green, but not a lot. I don't think it's worth touching. I think this tree is due for repotting anyway. So I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is for the show. It looks quite nice. I'll have to clean the pot up a bit. Maybe just prune a little bit of this moss away from the lip of the pot here. This tree has always been watered with rainwater, but you can see there's a little bit of, it's probably salt buildup on the edge of the pot. And that's probably from the fertilizer. If you just water it with pure rainwater with no fertilizer, your pots will stay pretty clean looking. You know, there's always a little bit of contamination in the water, but not a whole lot. Yeah, so I think I'll just leave this as is for the show. The next tree on my list is my Hibiscus bonsai, and it's looking good. The moss hasn't completely covered the surface of the soil, so I may have to add a bit of the playground sand just to cover the soil up. There's a root sticking up here that I need to prune back, like that. There's a bit of debris here that I can pick out, like that. Come on. Bit of soil that's on top of the moss there. The other option would be to get some more moss and moss this whole pot, but I'm not a big fan of a complete covering of moss. It, I don't know, looks a little artificial. Looks like the tree's growing in a, I don't know, a park or something with a mowed lawn. It can look good in some circumstances, but I don't know. For kind of a wild looking tree like this, I think it would look better with a bit of sand. So I'll get my playground sand and I'll start applying it to the surface of the soil. I may have to rake a little bit of the soil away. It's a little thick near the edges, especially if I'm going to be adding a thin layer of sand. When I repot trees, I generally pile the soil up a little higher than I would finally display the tree at, so quite often I have to rake away some of the soil just to get the soil level back to where it should be, or where it's intended to be. And that's just so the roots are safely under the soil when you're repotting, so they're not too close to the surface and they may dry out. So okay, that's looking better. I can apply the sand now. And this isn't a desert tree, so I'm not going to apply the whitish colored sand. I'm just going to use a regular playground sand, and that'll kind of look like soil, hopefully. All right, here I go. And any excess, I usually put it on too thick, and then when I water it, it kind of washes it away, all the excess sand. So all right, here I go with the water now. I'll just apply lots and get it worked in. washing away the excess. Like that. Here's a look at the hibiscus tree now, all ready for the show. I think, you know, this tree, again, isn't really well developed up top. I've spent years getting that canopy structure sorted out, and it may not be finished either. I may change my mind on that canopy. But for now, I'm liking it. I'm liking that kind of spreading canopy. I think it'll display the flowers nicely someday. So, yeah, it's ready for the show. The next tree that needs cleaning up is my Austrian pine. So the canopy, it's kind of thin because I did a lot of thinning this year. And my goal, I'm hoping to get a lot of back budding, which is happening. And then I'm going to shorten the overall structure, so bringing it in tighter to the trunk. And that, you know, can allow me more growth in future and more ramifications. So I don't want to get the tree too wide and spreading. I kind of want to keep that, it's a nice size right now, but you know, it'll just keep growing in future. So I've got to reduce my branches back for future growth. So down below, it's not much to look at. It's just basically straight bonsai soil. And this tree being sort of the closest tree I have to a classic Japanese style tree. So I'm going to completely moss the soil in the pot here. So I'll have to go up front and collect moss from the sidewalk, and I'll need quite a bit. And I'll have to scrape away a bit of the soil and then plant moss on top. I've collected the moss from the cracks in the front sidewalk. So I'll give it a bit of a soaking just to, you know, pre-wet it. I'll wet it down, just like that. And that'll make it easier to apply. It'll soften up the soil behind the moss there. Just like that. I'll need to scrape away a little bit of the soil just to leave some room for my moss. So this soil is 1/2 turfus and 1/2 pumice. So it's close to my regular mix. I replace the perlite with pumice. So it's a very similar mix, but just a little different. And I haven't noticed any difference in the way the trees grow or anything. I think both, you know, pumice and perlite pretty well do the same thing. I haven't noticed any difference, so. I do notice a difference in price though. The perlite is much less expensive. So I got a late start on my bonsai work today because our Stewards of the Forest group was meeting in our community orchard. And I'll show you that as today's update near the end of this video. What we did today out there. So I think that's a good level for the soil now. So I can apply the moss on top. I'll begin to apply the moss now. And I've scraped away most of the soil that's backing the moss to make a thinner layer. And I'll start, you know, at the base of the tree and work outwards, because I will be mossing the entire surface of the soil. There's a few pine needles I need to remove here. So yeah, I'm just putting the moss in around the roots. You don't want to cover your surface roots up, but you want it between them. So it looks like this moss has been here forever. And I'll work around to this side now. Some in the corner here. It takes a lot of moss to cover a whole pot. I collected quite a bit of moss out there, but I don't think I'll have enough to do the whole surface. I might have to go back out and get some more. Yeah, just piecing it all together like a puzzle. All hell's breaking loose now. Just a nice quiet Thursday evening here in the bonsai zone. So I like the moss to be either level with the lip of the pot like it is now, or just slightly below. And I think it looks best if it's just slightly below by a few millimeters, and then it looks really finished. The only problem with getting a late start today is that I am slowly running out of daylight. However, I still have all day tomorrow, and I have no plans for tomorrow, so I can spend the whole day getting my trees ready, which will be nice. Sorry, mosquito was biting me there. There's not many mosquitoes out this time of year, but at dusk you still get the odd one. I think by this time of the year the bats and the spiders have kind of been killing them all, which is okay by me. I have no love for mosquitoes, but they are a part of the ecosystem and an important part, so I don't encourage them, but I do put up with them. Unless they land on me, then I don't. Okay, so I've got pretty well most of the front all filled in with moss, so I'm going around the back now. I think one of the exciting things about growing bonsai is not what your trees look like now, but what they'll look like in the years to come. And it's exciting seeing them change every year and developing and getting better looking. Yeah, getting close. I'm just closing in some of the gaps. So to do that, I just get little pieces of moss and I just plug up some of the gaps and holes. And it's, you know, any areas of the moss that doesn't look quite right, I just push new moss right over top of the old moss and kind of fix it up. Right here. So that's all looking good. I need to go around the back and just fix that up a bit. Yeah, there's just still some pieces of soil showing through here. I made a video yesterday, and by the time I got the video done and had supper, which was quite late in the evening, I started editing the video and I realized, oh, this is going to take a long time. And I thought I better get a good night's sleep, so I went to bed very early last night, and I'm hoping to get both this video and the one I recorded last night all done and edited. I don't know when I'll get them uploaded. You'll see them eventually. I guess if you're watching this now, you'll be watching it, and I don't know. And then on Saturday I'll be taking a video of the show, so I'll get lots of videos coming up. Yeah, hopefully you'll like them. Okay, I have got that all mossed in and looking good, I think. No complaints from me anyway. I had moss left over even. Yeah, so I like that. I think it's looking really good. Looks very ancient. Okay, let's have a final look at the tree. The sunlight is slowly disappearing behind the trees. It's just hitting the top of the Austrian pine now. So let's go in and have a look at the moss. There it is. And we'll go in close to the roots here. So you can see it gives a really mature look to the tree, like it's growing in a forest or somewhere. Maybe Ireland or somewhere. Yeah, so the rest of the tree is looking quite good. As I said, it'll continue to look better in future, but For now, the Austrian Pine is done and it's ready for the show. One tree that's not on my list for the show, but I'm thinking of putting in the show, is my Ficus microcarpa cutting of a cutting. And I was thinking of using this display stand like this and putting my largest monk behind the display stand, and then putting my Ficus cutting of a cutting on top. So right now it's really long and shaggy, so I would have to defoliate the tree and prune it back to look good. So I think I'll do that and just see how it looks, and you know, this could possibly be a nice display for the show. So all the branches are living except this one apex of this branch died, so I'll have to remove that. I don't want to confuse it with a living branch. Now, this part of the branch I think is alive, but just this top one has died, so I'll snip that off, like right here, like that. We'll see if anything sprouts on here, and if it doesn't, I can prune it back further. So I'll begin by defoliating the tree, just removing all the leaves. Like that. Oh. Thought the mower was done there for a second, but they're still going. Hour number 2 now. My goodness. Some of the leaves are a little yellow on this tree, and that's because it's been growing in the greenhouse and it was a little too hot in there. And it's a little bit of heat stress, but now that the temperatures have cooled off a bit, it seems like all the stuff in the greenhouse has been growing much better. I'll be making some decisions on these aerial roots. I'm not a fan of the aerial roots generally that come out from the trunk like that. I like the ones that kind of follow the contour of the trunk and they cling tightly to the trunk, but these are shooting straight out in the air. And I can remember last time when I was working on this tree debating whether I should prune them off then. And I left them on, and you know, I don't know, I'm not liking them now, so they are probably going to be pruned off, but I'm not sure. I may not do it now. I may wait till after the show or another time. So I'm not really liking them the way they stick out in the air like that, though. I tell you one thing though, I'm glad whoever was mowing their lawn for like 3 hours is finally done. I'm also glad that I have wood chips down in my backyard so I don't have to mow the lawn. The only part of the lawn I mow is the little grass bit out front of the house. And I just use a hand push mower, no gasoline, no electricity. And I only do that maybe, you know, 3 or 4 times a year. That's all the mowing I do, and I'm much happier to be working on bonsai than mowing lawns. It's just, lawns aren't that good for the environment. I'd rather have plants like my goldenrod back here and raspberries growing in the backyard than having a big useless patch of a lawn. Squirrel. But that's just me. I'm just trying to kind of look out for the wildlife on Earth and the well-being of the Earth. I'm just trying to do my part, and that doesn't include a lawn to me. And one thing I do like about this backyard, it's a little wild looking, but there is a ton of wildlife in our backyard. Not just birds, but all kinds of animals, and
I just love that. You know, someone's got to give them a home. There's a dead branch there. You know, the farmers don't like wild animals. They don't like them in the city. No one likes them anywhere, but they have to have a place to live. They're part of our world. They shouldn't be thought of as pests or, you know, as long as they stay in the forest and they're not trying to get in the house or chewing on the roof or anything like that, I just leave them be. Same with ants or anything. If they want to build a nest in the backyard, a underground ant nest, that's fine with me, as long as they're not building it in the house. Some of the moss isn't looking really good on this. I may have to fix up the moss a bit if I put this in the show. See how it looks in the end. There's a lot of leaves on this tree for being a small tree. Taking a little while to defoliate it. That's all right. Sure, I'll get it done before sunset. I've got one last leaf to take off here. And there, the tree is defoliated. So I'll do some cleanup here, and then we'll come in and look at the structure of the tree. It's time to prune the tree now. So I've got to make some decisions. I have this lowest branch, which will eventually become more of a trunk line, which I like. It's very unique and interesting. So I'm just going to prune it back to maybe here, to here, and back to here. Just making that branch more compact. I'll do the same here. I'll prune it back to here. Now I've got to prune the upper canopy also. I've got to get a rounded canopy on top. So I think I'll come out front and just kind of put my hand over and see where I want to prune it to. So I'm just looking, I'm out front, looking at the tree. Yeah, so I think I'll want to prune it back. This part is interesting. It has a lot of movement here, but doesn't really have much of a change in thickness. It's kind of the same diameter here as it is up here. So I think what I've got to do is take it off right here, taking that whole top piece off and just keeping this part. So I think I'll have to get my branch pruners for that. Okay, I've got my branch pruners, and I'll come in here now and try and get right about here. So here I go. So now it's got still lots of movement, but it has a change of diameter. Then I'll prune these top shoots back and back to here, back to here. And that's kind of the height I want my apex, so everything else will get shortened. I think this part is dead here. This part. I was just scraping the bark and it looks like it is dead. So I'm going to take that off. Yeah, it was dead. You can tell. Yeah, it was brittle. And it didn't bleed much when I cut it, so. Okay, there's a branch growing on the inside here. I've got to get rid of that. Like that. I can probably clean that cut up a bit better too. That guy's still mowing his lawn. He just doesn't want to give up. Driving me crazy. Okay, there's a branch back here. It starts off and it just keeps going vertical. I've got a branch kind of coming off, fanning out here. And there's another one fanning out behind. So I'm going to take the top of that off. So right about here, like that. And then I think I'll take the top of this one off. I'll take it off right here. And this one maybe, let's take the tip off. This one back here, I'll take off to here for now. There's a branch going out the back. I'm going to shorten that to here. There's some long ones from the side here. It's kind of got a long branch without any change of direction or anything, so I'm going to prune that off shorter. And this one also shorter. And we'll see what happens there. It's dead on top here. I'll take that off. There's a long branch going up the back here that needs to be shortened. So I'll definitely take it off here. Like that. There's a stub here I can remove. And I think I'll just try taking this one off here. Let's see what happens in that area. I'm wondering if I should remove this branch. Probably should. And it's got two coming from the trunk in the same spot there. I could remove this one and keep the one out the back. I think that would look better design-wise. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to remove this whole branch here and keep the one out the back. So here I go. Just like that. Now, hopefully that looks a little better. I think it does. Interesting. Yeah, so these roots, the problem with these roots is that it takes away from the actual root that goes into the soil down here. So it doesn't, the trunk doesn't flow down nicely into the soil. It kind of is broken up by these roots. So I am going to get rid of them. So I'll come in, take it off there, and I'll have to snip it off down at the soil level here too. Like that. There's another one here I'll have to get rid of. That. And snip that off into the soil here too. I probably should have got rid of those roots earlier, but I'll get rid of this one. Like that. So this one here doesn't bother me too much. But I don't know. I'm going to leave it for now. It doesn't really bother me. It kind of helps flow the trunk into the soil, and I don't know, it looks kind of interesting with that sort of trunk or branch coming off behind it. So I'll keep it for now. There's a dead aerial root there. Another one up there. Okay, so underneath this pot, this is a 3D printed pot. I have a lot of roots that I need to clean up. Just to clean up the bottom of the pot here. So I'll have to get my scissors and I'll snip away. So I will be getting a 3D printer. I may have mentioned that. I will try and get that for over the winter, and we'll be printing all kinds of pots. I'll be designing them and printing them. It'll be really, really fun. And I'll use the non-biodegradable plastic so the pots last for longer than me anyway. Yeah, so a little bit of cleanup work on the bottom of the pot there. That's looking a bit better, isn't it? This was one of the first 3D pots I ever printed. This tree needs a watering. I'm going to come in with the watering can and just Give it a good soaking. It's quite dry around the back here. You can see that. So I'll give that a good watering. All right, I'll come in with the water now and give it a good soaking. So I'll just let that settle in. And once that water is settled in, I'll water it again. It was quite dry at the back there. Give it another soaking. So on a dry tree like this, I'll do it, you know, quite a few times, like 4 or 5 times until it really gets soaked into the soil. The water's soaking in really nicely now. Wash the top of the tree down. I'll put together all the elements of the planting now to see what it looks like. So I'll begin with the stand. And I'll put the tree on top of the stand, like that. And then the monk can go in behind. I'll see what that looks like from the front. There's a view of the monk now meditating behind his favorite bonsai tree, a ficus. It's time now for today's update. Today's update brings me out to the community orchard, where we'll be planting the central tree of the giant spiral orchard. We're just going to dig a hole and dump it around the side like a crater? Or?
Yeah, why don't we do a crater on the side? Yeah.
All right. Now, this peach tree, is it got grafted rootstock?
I believe so.
Okay, so it's probably a little hardier than a...
Well, that's debatable.
Right, how hardy it is.
My friend at Silver Creek, he's convinced that peach trees should be grown on their own rootstock for hardiness.
Okay.
So that's his new thing that he's getting into.
Really? Okay.
It means you don't have a specific variety.
Right.
Because they will breed truer to type than apples will,
Okay.
but not 100% true to type.
So if we get peach pits from the store and plant them,
They're probably not going to be winter hardy ones. But if you got ones that were grown around here
Okay.
and planted those, that's better luck.
Well, we have a peach tree in our backyard, but the peaches, sometimes they develop, but usually the squirrels get them.
Right.
And where is this place?
Newstack.
Where? I don't know where that is.
On the way up to Wyerton, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Walkerton Way,
Yeah,
May.
on your way up to
Hanover.
Orangetown.
I've never heard of that. I don't get up north a lot.
Well, at least it's not all clay. That's good.
Yeah, this seems to be nicer soil.
It does, actually. I think we're hitting clay now, but
Yeah,
but
it's actually soil.
there is a top layer.
Yeah.
Or a top layer of topsoil.
The drainage guy, he commented, he's like, this is actually pretty nice soil here. So I will do that.
Well, luckily my neighbor close by, he works for the city. He loves horticulture. So.
The boy with the tractor?
No, a different person. That's the mechanic has the tractor.
Oh.
Well, that's probably pretty good there, eh?
Yeah, I would think so.
So we should fill wood chip drainage layer, do you think, first? Or?
Yeah. Trees
Deep
about
enough?
there. Yeah, we're totally deep enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, 'cause that's too deep. The graft is right here.
Should I dump this whole layer of wood chips in then?
Sure.
All right. Here I go. Get over this big pump.
Maybe not all of it. That was more than I anticipated. What do we know about roots, Nigel?
We should tease them out if we can. Maybe get a claw or something. That looks healthy.
Right here.
They look good and healthy. Yeah, we should break them up a bit.
There was a claw.
There's a claw there, yeah.
It's okay putting the soil in?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
I don't know much about planting cottage trees, to be honest.
Oh wow, yeah. It's
Let's put it in a
If I
wheelbarrow.
break them,
Very root
You should
bound.
set it in that wheelbarrow.
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
you.
Let's get a stable.
over here.
There we go.
There.
I don't know where you balance breaking off the roots versus untangling.
Usually those little fine roots recover within like 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Oh,
It's
you're
just-
kind of packing it in there, bud.
It's just if you break away the thick ones.
No, it's okay. It's breaking it up.
Careful, I don't want to poke you with the tines. I mean, it's yeah,
that's
nice
right.
soil. It's just a,
They're all tied up in knots.
yes, they want to go around each other.
And that's getting pretty good. I wouldn't do too much more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, that will do.
Good.
Just so they're not all,
Bound.
yeah.
Get rid of these weeds.
Yeah. So there's the graft. So I would say we want the graft, you know, above ground level by probably,
Yeah, about sort of this height, I would,
yeah,
if we can.
So do you
Yeah.
want a little more soil underneath?
I think so.
Yeah, right up where you are. Good.
Yeah.
That's at least that's going to be
That's
straight.
enough. Is it straight?
Um,
Do we-
I would put it a bit
I would
higher.
go higher still.
I'll go find a post.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Well, there's plenty of room for those roots to grow in there, isn't there? We dug a big hole.
Yep. How is that looking for height?
Let me see.
That's not too bad.
I think that's pretty good.
All right, let's leave it at that then.
Yeah, I think that's good. We got more compost and wood chips to put around it.
Yep.
Exciting, the center tree of the spiral orchard. Big step forward.
Pack down.
I think it's important to have community in the name, so
So that
Yeah.
yes, it represents.
it's everyone's fortune,
That's
not
it.
board.
We're just the workers. We get nothing.
You found a steak.
Yes, I found a peach stake.
Good.
Should we put that in before we get too carried away?
Yeah, actually we should.
Well, I'll certainly hang on to this if somebody else wants to.
Okay, we want it as close to the tree as we can get.
And how we're gonna pound it in.
There's a mallet here.
Okay. Do you want me to do it, Ryan? I don't want you taking your shoulder up.
Sure.
Okay.
Can we get it even closer? And
Well,
sneak
let's.
it between, maybe on this side?
Okay. Well, I was
There's no
thinking of the
branches?
prevailing. There's no
Oh,
prevailing. here.
you're right. But if we, oh, we should have thought about rotating it. Maybe if we tuck it right in there. There we go. That might get some.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I hardly ever miss, Ryan.
Until you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep it.
All right,
Nice
the central
donut shape.
tree is planted.
Yay!
Yay!
Yay for Magic's peach tree.
This is a peach tree.
Millions of peaches.
Peachy keen.
Peaches for us.
We'll see how hardy the peach tree is. Yeah, it looks really good.
Well, we're going to get a good start anyway.
Well watered and
Yep.
in place.
That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.